Hey, what's going on, guys? Chris here with 570 Wrench. Today, we're going to be refreshing the cooling system on my E46 drift car. Let's get to it. All right, so making good, quick progress. So the fan shroud is out. We unplugged a few things to get it out of the way. The fan clutch and fan is out, and then the upper radiator hose is out as well. Then what we're gonna do is take this other lower radiator hose off, start draining some of the coolant out, and get to the thermostat and get to the water pump. So we have a good replacement here, German made, of course, so BorgWarner, and this is Waller. This is made right in Germany. Then we have a Graf water pump, and that's also made in Germany. So anytime you're replacing anything on the car, I always recommend the German or OE manufacturers. Febi Bilstein I usually don't recommend because it is made in China. However, this is just a pulley, so not a big deal. So again, just a water pump pulley, not a big deal. And then we have OE hex bolts for the pulley straight from BMW. And then of course the serpentine belt and some OE antifreeze and coolant. So let's continue, guys. We are going to take these hoses off, or at least the lower radiator hose, get some drainage going, and then get to that thermostat and that water pump. All right, guys, so everything is removed that we're going to be replacing. The thermostat is out and the water pump is out. So no super clear sign on where the leak was coming from. I have a good feeling it was coming from this thermostat housing and the thermostat itself. This is a replacement. It says Motorrad. Not too sure what Motorrad is. Never heard of it before. But again, I have a good feeling the leak was coming from here. But we'll know shortly. Then we also have this water pump, which I'm going to save. It looks like it was a recent replacement. However, it is the plastic impeller. But yeah, no super clear sign. But that brings us to the replacement water pump thermostat. So we're going to throw those in first. And we're going to start with the water pump. So let's get to it. All right, guys, and there is the replacement water pump. Again, German made, metal impeller compared to the plastic one right here, as you can see. Super important, good upgrade. Make sure to buy good parts as always. So we're gonna get that in there, and I'll throw you guys back on time lapse. right, guys, so next up we have our Borg Warner made by Waller, which is German, a very reputable company, and that is our thermostat and thermostat housing. So we're going to be replacing this. The surface is prepped. Now these are known to leak unless you put some high temp gasket maker around this, and just a little bit. So I'm going to do that right now and then get this baby on and torqued down. All right, so thermostat is on and torqued down. Threw the hose back on as well, and of course clean the O-rings that were on it. Water pump is on, as you saw, and we have the new pulley on. But now what I'm gonna do, guys, and I have to think this out because I don't wanna ruin the new serpentine belt. I wanna know if the leaking coolant was coming from one of those that I just replaced before I do anything else. So I'm gonna actually throw the old serpentine belt on, put everything back together, excluding the fan, and then fill the expansion tank up and run the car and see if it's still leaking coolant. So then if it is leaking coolant, we could go from there. If it's not, I could drain everything, the block, the expansion tank, and put some good OEM 50-50 mix of BMW coolant, and then the new serpentine belt, and button everything back up and be good to go. Now I think we found our issue already, and it is this top radiator hose right here. It's leaking at the connection, and I had a feeling it was up here, possibly that this was the issue. I was kind of persuaded it was the thermostat, but again, that's our issue. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna pull this top radiator hose off and clean the O-ring and see if that helps. If not, I'm just gonna order a new hose. All right, guys, so I played with the O-ring a little bit. It's no longer leaking. However, if you just move this a little bit, it starts pouring out. So I'm going to put a quick order in from FCP Euro to get a good upper radiator hose. Again, not surprised. I know that these are issues and coolant leaks happen from these upper hoses. So I will see you guys as soon as that hose comes in. All right, we got the brand new upper radiator hose ready to go. We're going to get this baby on and then drain all of the fluid that's currently in the car and then properly fill it with the correct OE coolant. So let's get to it. All right, guys, so the new upper radiator hose is on, locked in, good to go. I threw some water in the reservoir to make sure that there's no leaks anywhere before we go and mix the distilled water and the new coolant. I didn't want to waste anything. Let's get the new serpentine belt on and then get our brand new genuine coolant mixed up with some distilled water. All right, guys, let's get to it. So we have the engine block slowly draining here. I don't have the plug all the way out of the engine block because if you do know, it explodes with all the coolant coming out of the block. So I'm gonna let this slowly drain like this, even if it takes a while. It's much better than getting coolant everywhere. And to be honest, a lot of people don't even know that they have to drain the coolant from the engine block when they do a refresh. They just go and do the radiator like you just saw me do. Now, you should be filling this car with about 8 liters of coolant. Most people, again, don't drain all of the coolant out and wind up only replacing like 3 liters of coolant and then mixing it with all of your old garbage. So make sure to drain all of the coolant. So you have a plug at the engine block, you have your radiator plug, and then you have your reservoir or your expansion tank blue plug. So again, all 3 of those plugs have to be drained to get all of the coolant out. All right, so coolant is 100% drained out, and we are ready to get this baby filled up with the good stuff. But first we have to mix everything together. So I have 2 gallons of distilled water right there, and then an empty gallon right here. And then the OEM coolant, this is the blue stuff. Everyone says don't put the green stuff in, put the blue stuff in, whatever. But I'm a big fan of just running OEM coolant and the proper OEM fluids and parts. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mix this up 50-50, 50% coolant and 50% distilled water. and we will go from there. Let's do it. All right, we are all set to go. Now there's a few critical steps you have to do to properly fill and bleed the coolant on all E46 vehicles. Step 1, get your genuine BMW coolant and dilute it with 50% distilled water. Step 2, jack up the front driver's side of the car and put it on a jack stand. This is so this front little bolt here is the highest point of the car. This is critical to ensure we successfully get all of the air out of the system. Step 3, unscrew the bolt at the connection of the reservoir and the upper radiator hose. Step 4, unscrew your reservoir cap. Step 5, inside your BMW, turn the BMW to the accessory position. Turn your fan on low and the heat all the way to the hot. Next step, fill until you see coolant and air bubbles coming out of your upper radiator hose hole. As you saw, we saw bubbles coming out of that hole. Next step is to fill it until that's a steady stream. Now that we have a steady stream coming out of the upper radiator hose hole, or the highest point of the vehicle, all the air has been pushed out and we're good to go. All right, we're all filled up and good to go. I'm gonna throw the new serpentine belt on. Okay, we're all buttoned back up. Tons of new parts on this. And that means one thing. Let's get it all started up. I'm going to put you guys in the bird's eye view while I start it. And I am going to start it with the cap off. I just want to see if any coolant gets taken down. So we're going to take this cap off just for a second and we'll get this started up. All right, let's do it. All right, guys, it is running absolutely beautiful. No leaks, so that's a big plus. I'm gonna sit here and let it idle for a long time. I want it to get to operating temperature. The heat is on. There's no white smoke coming from the exhaust and it's idling really nice. Starting to heat up a little bit. Good stuff. We'll be back to you guys in a little bit to make sure this doesn't overheat. Before it was overheating after about 20 minutes of idling. So I'm gonna let it sit here and idle for a while. All right, guys, 20 minutes later, the car is still idling and running perfect. So I'm gonna call this a success. Usually after 20 minutes, it was overheating. The needle's perfectly centered right now. Heat is nice and hot. There's no coolant leaks. So this is good news, guys. We're gonna call the video here. Thank you so much for watching 570 Wrench. Looking forward to continuing the build on this. And it feels so good to have the right parts on the car, which is going to allow us to confidently beat on it and know that it's going to be cooling effectively and efficiently. Thank you so much again. We'll see you all next time.